It's been about traveling around the world while you're in London in just 5 days.
This is an international competition. It's one that involves over 50 countries, about 50,000 young people aged between 16 and 20 from all over the world, and they take part in national public speaking competitions in their country. The winners then come to the UK for the final, which is all about helping young people to discover their voice.
It is an extremely important event that unites young people all over the world. They start to embrace diversity.
But on top of all that, what they're learning is how to marshal arguments and persuade people, so they are going to become very important in their own countries. This is at the heart of international diplomacy.
If you take the world map, I believe people who use their voice can be those who take your country as small cities to a bigger platform. So I believe I'm here to use my voice to make my mark, not only in London, but also an international platform, and show them that Sri Lanka is more than just a few kilometers.
I myself come from an underprivileged background in the Philippines. It's not very usual for underprivileged people in the Philippines to actually speak English, for example, so I am very, very lucky. I want to be the voice for the people like me, like those who come from underprivileged backgrounds.
It's much more than the competition. The young people, when they come to London in May each year, spend a whole week together.
The cultural exchange that's involved is enormous.
It is a melting pot. The variety of people that you're going to meet, the mixing of cultures. We come from different realities, and the fact that we all speak the same language, it was amazing.
I loved that place. It was a great experience walking in London. It's very different from Sri Lanka, but I loved the country.
In the days leading up to the heats, people are going to be talking to us about their speeches. They're going to be delivering parts of them to us one-on-one.
They trained us in voice modulation, being like a bit dramatic with your speech, pauses.
The cultural exchange that happened was amazing. Coming here, it's like my brain just transported me a ride around the earth.
Welcome to the final of the English Speaking Union International Public Speaking Competition 2016.
Broadly speaking, we're looking at quality of delivery, pacing, how well they connect with their audience, how natural they are as a speaker in the room.
It's a question really of coming across with your heart and with your arguments.
Everybody did something different and everybody did it great. The delivery, the content, it was just amazing.
Today, I shall speak to you all on the power of humanity.
My mother could have very easily given me up. Instead, she chose to see me not as her broken rule, but as her one redemption.
See, that's the thing about us. We choose the easy way, not the right way.
Honor your word and practice the good things to grab that integrity.
That's it! This is the power within us. The power of choice.
The outcome of those things can bring a lot of integrity to entire populations.
What a wonderful afternoon it has been. What an amazing system it is to bring you all together, from Zimbabwe to Mongolia, from Sweden to Australia and everything in between. It is truly international. We have the winner of 2016 International Public Speaking Competition, who is Vivienne Garcia.
It's amazing. I honestly am very happy. I'm glad to go home and show people that Mexicans, we can do important things.
Genuinely, it sounds so cliche to say it, but what I got for winning is nothing compared to what I got for competing. Just all the friends that I will have for the rest of my life and all the love that I got from those people.
It's such a well-organized competition. It was so amazing to be here. I think that this is a must for every single public speaker.
I'm really excited to go home with an actual award to show what I did here. And when I go back to Ghana, I would expose the opportunity to young people.
What we have here are extraordinarily talented and sophisticated young people, all of whom I suspect are going to make their mark on the world.
It's a very good platform for their future to spread their wings and fly to anywhere they want.
Okay, good evening, everyone. That's going to be actually a bilingual introduction of the event. Eu vou fazer isso em português, pouco também em inglês, pois podemos ter algum público aqui, pais, colegas, dos nossos candidatos que não conseguem ainda entender na totalidade em inglês. Então, vamos fazer essa introdução da minha parte, a bit of English and a bit of Portuguese. Bom, como vocês viram aí no vídeo, nós estamos falando desse grande evento que é o ESU, que é um concurso internacional de discursos de jovens, e nós estamos nessa etapa agora na nossa final estadual. E nós terminaremos aqui o nosso momento de hoje com 2 finalistas para então a fase nacional, e depois da fase nacional iremos para essa competição internacional que neste ano, devido à pandemia, será totalmente remoto, mas a experiência, como alguns alunos falaram, é única, né? De compartilhar, aprender e discursar para alunos do mundo todo. A Cultura Inglesa participa do ESU já faz mais de 15 anos e nós já enviamos 3 candidatos para a final internacional para competir com outros alunos de outros países. E a gente vai querer esse ano estar de novo lá com um representante de cultura inglesa. Então, essa fase estadual é super importante para nós. Mas qual que é o tema, né, deste ano? O tema escolhido para que os nossos candidatos aqui presentes falem é The world is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. Então, os alunos vão ter que discursar durante 5 minutos, tem uma tolerância de 30 segundos, de 4 minutos e 30 até 5 minutos e 30, sobre esse tema. E os jurados, que eu já vou apresentá-los, irão avaliar os discursos destes alunos sobre este tema dentro de 4 elementos. São eles: expression and delivery of the speech, reasoning and evidence presented by the speaker, organization and prioritization of the speech by the candidate, and response, como o aluno responde às perguntas. Durante a apresentação dos alunos, por conta vocês estão aí, né, via um link do YouTube, mas nós estamos deste lado da tela, aqui, cada um na sua casa, via Zoom. Eu peço para que todos os candidatos que estão aqui neste link do Zoom mantenham os seus microfones e câmeras desligados para não atrapalhar quem está falando, e quem está então discursando mantenha o seu vídeo e obviamente o seu microfone ligado. Após a apresentação, os colegas aqui nessa sala, os demais candidatos, podem então fazer uma pergunta um para os outros, estão abrindo o microfone e a câmera para fazer a pergunta, e também durante essa transmissão ao vivo pelo YouTube, vocês aí que estão nos assistindo podem fazer perguntas após cada apresentação, perguntas para os candidatos. E nós teremos uma moderadora, que eu já vou apresentar quem ela é, que vai moderar e vai passar as perguntas para mim aqui deste lado. Quem são os nossos jurados convidados? Então, temos aqui 3 jurados. A primeira jurada é Lenora. Lenora is passionate about professional development, design thinking, leadership, and positive discipline. Lenora has worked as an English teacher since 1998 and currently works at Cultura Inglesa as an assistant manager and a head teacher. Lenora, can you just say hi to us? You can open your microphone and camera just to say hi.
Hi, everybody. Wish you all the best of luck to all candidates. Thank you, Marcelo.
Now we have the second judge. Lucas is an academic coordinator at Cultura Inglesa with a postgraduate and master's degree in applied linguistics. Lucas conducts initiatives on product design and development for young learners, teenagers, and adults, both for EFL and CLIO markets. Lucas, can you say hi?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm very honored to be here. And just like Lenora, would like to wish you all the best. Break a leg, not literally.
Okay, great, Lucas. And we have our third judge, Sandra Stevens, has been an English teacher for more than 40 years, both at language institutions, schools, and at universities. During this time, she has also been an examiner for the main international exams, such as FCE and the CPE. She has also worked as a language coach with the actors at the Cultura Inglesa theater groups, and Sandra has a master's degree in Irish theater from USP. Sandra, can you hear us? Can you say hi?
Hi. It's great being here, and all the best to everybody.
And as I mentioned, we're also going to have a moderator via our YouTube streaming. Our moderator will be Marcela Sintra. Marcela Sintra has been working with ELT for over 25 years. She holds an MA in TESOL and is a CELTA and Delta tutor. She has presented papers in national and international conferences. She is a product manager in the academic area at Cultura Inglesa, and she is the TESOL president for the years 2021 and 2022. Marcela, are you there? Can you say hi to us? I know you are on YouTube and here. Can you say hi?
Hi, everyone. Hello. Congratulations on being here for the candidates, and have fun today.
Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, they're going to have 5 minutes to deliver their speech. E então, enquanto eles estão discursando, para indicar aos candidatos que eles já atingiram 4 minutos e 30, eles vão ouvir um som de uma campainha. O som é este. Fê? Depois, quando atingir 5 minutos, vão ouvir novamente este som. E para indicar que atingiram o tempo máximo de 5 minutos e 30 segundos, novamente este som. Como eu disse anteriormente, ao final do discurso dos candidatos, os colegas aqui, alunos também candidatos, poderão então fazer a pergunta, abrir a sua câmera e o microfone, e a plateia aí no YouTube pode fazer a sua pergunta e a Marcela Sintra, que vocês conheceram, irá passar para mim as perguntas que vocês têm para os alunos aqui ao vivo. Lembrando, portanto, que para não termos interrupções durante o discurso, eu peço a todos aqueles que não estão discursando aqui nessa sala Zoom que desliguem os microfones e a câmera para que não tenhamos problemas. Bom, depois das apresentações, os 3 jurados irão para uma outra sala, para um outro link, debater sobre os candidatos. Teremos, então, aí um intervalo aproximado de 15 minutos, não saiam do link, e os jurados voltam com os nomes dos escolhidos. 2 finalistas para a Final Nacional e também 2 runner-ups, são aqueles que podem concorrer caso o finalista tenha problemas. E estes 2 finalistas da final de hoje irão receber um voucher de vale-presente no valor de R$100, mais 2 horas de coaching específico para eles, para que eles possam ir ainda mais fortes para a Final Nacional. Já o runner-up, esses 2, vão receber o voucher de R$100. Todos os participantes aqui já vão receber o certificado de participação. O ganhador na Final Nacional, que vai acontecer no dia 9 de abril, horário ainda a confirmar, irá receber um Kindle Paperwhite como prêmio dessa Final Nacional. E depois, entre os dias 10 e 14 de maio, o aluno da Final Nacional vai poder, então, participar, aprender e competir na Final Internacional, que este ano será remota. Estamos todos super animados, eu fico super animado, já é o meu, acho que é meu já número 5 ou 6º ESU que eu participo. Bom, agora vamos passar para o sorteio da ordem de apresentação. Fê.
Vamos lá, tentando simular o que acontece na vida real. Vamos sortear aqui um nome. E o primeiro candidato a se apresentar, Henrique.
Ótimo. Henrique, você pode abrir sua câmera e seu microfone. Okay, Henrique. So when you're ready, we can start your speech.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, good luck.
Covered by the webs of a spider, touch one string and the vibrations can be felt at its opposite side. That is how our world is currently connected. Take Suez Canal blockade, for example. Happened not too long ago and all the way in Egypt. However, in a matter of hours, the whole world became aware of what happened. Communicating has never been easier. With the rise of globalization, people can speak to others on the other side of the globe with a single touch. We are able to research and explore different cultures without traveling. We can help nations facing wars, famine, injustice, death. We are living in an era where national borders can no longer stop interaction. All this made possible by this web called Internet. Consuming foreign products is no longer difficult. In fact, it has often become easier than acquiring goods from your own country. Just take a look around you. Where does your cell phone come from? Your computer, and maybe even your clothes. Next, try naming 5 different companies from your home country. Quite difficult, right? Your future doesn't revolve around a single nation anymore. Countless doors have been opened. Our world has become immense. During this pandemic, it is no longer an option to stay at home. It is an obligation. Still, things have managed to continue being fundamentally the same. This competition is still happening. I'm giving out my speech. Hopefully, you're listening to me. And I'm still being judged. What has changed is that I'm at home. But the purpose of the event, its essence, remains the same. In the end, we're still moving forward. Not only that, but right now, the world must be digital. It must function inside digital screens, because without it, human society would be in even greater disarray. The internet has presented us with an alternative, with a solution. However, everything comes at a cost. At the same time as our world has become bigger, it has also shrunk. Although cultural fragments from countries split by oceans are able to persist and establish themselves everywhere, it is ultimately a spider web. A home for the host, but a trap for its prey. It is difficult not to entangle yourself between the webs of the internet. This enticing tool can fit in the palm of your hands, and through your mobile phone, you gain access to information all across the globe. Since you have something so amazing available for use anytime, there seems to be no reason not to make use of it. You can do simply whatever you want through your phone. Everything you could ever dream of has been crammed up to fit your needs for your convenience. There seems to be no need to go out of your way in search of something anymore. The internet has it for you. The capability to have basically anything at your disposal in the matter of seconds is by no means negative. It offers a much more cultured and informed society, and has allowed us to continue working, studying, and functioning properly during these difficult times. However, since it seems to have no downside, we tend to drown in its temptations. We become addicted and lose sight of the bigger picture. We belittle the wonders of the physical world around us. Internet's overexposure is what narrows our point of view. With so much being transmitted so quickly to our minds, everything else becomes dull. People become exhausted and bored more easily. The problem lies in failing to appreciate the real world and living only digitally. We must remember, the internet, the digital world, is only made to complement the real world, not its substitute. The question is, are you able to weave the webs for your own benefit, or are you trapped between them? Are you the spider or the prey? My name is Henrique Meshiro. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Henrique, for your speech. Now, have we got questions from the other candidates? Okay, so just waiting for Marcela to tell me if there are, okay, we've got no questions from the audience as well. So Lucas, Lenora, or Sandra, you can open your microphone and camera to ask Henrique your questions.
Hi, Henrique.
Hello.
Henrique, you mentioned the effects of the world being shrunk, but at the same time being more at the reach of everyone. How would you say the effects of a world being shrunk are felt by more privileged and underprivileged groups of society?
The way I see it, the underprivileged societies, those which do not have complete access to internet, obviously they can't be entangled by the internet since they have no access to it. And what should be done is granting them access, and that way they can be integrated in a more inclusive society and make use of it to achieve greater heights. That's how I see it.
Thank you
so much. We have a question from the audience now, Henrique. The question is, would you say the benefits of being so connected outweigh the costs, or the opposite? Why?
I believe that it outweighs, it does outweigh. And there are some examples actually from, if we take economically, for example, companies that have branches everywhere on the world have greater profits than companies that focus only on a single country. Multinationals like McDonald's, Apple, Microsoft, companies like those are able to get much more benefit than companies that work only locally.
Okay, Henrique, thank you so much for your presentation. Now, Fernanda, who is our next speaker?
Lá, próximo candidato. Julia Campos.
Okay, Julia. When you're ready, just open your microphone because you're on mute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
When you're ready, you can start, Julia. Good luck.
Is it possible for something to be high and low, good and bad, right and wrong at the same time? And if so, is it possible to turn this into something good? Good evening, my name is Julia Alveda Campos, and this is what I would like to address today in my speech entitled as A Bigger, Smaller, and Hopefully Better World. An average person with a private Instagram account has around 150 followers, according to an analysis of the app made in 2020. This number at first might sound small, especially when you compare it with digital influencers who often have millions of followers. But try to imagine a room full with 150 people. Now, it probably does not seem to be that small, does it? Decades ago, being able to keep in contact with over 150 people you know, no matter how far you are from one another, would be almost utopic. This, therefore, might be a way to prove that our world has never been so small. Or hasn't? Relating our thoughts again to the digital influencers, let's consider one. Kim Kardashian, for instance. Kim has over 211 million followers. I don't know about you, but when I think about massive numbers like this one, I feel like a tiny fish in a giant tank. The perspective of being so small does not come up to me only when I think about followers on social media, but whenever I consider that huge numbers like this one actually represent something. Might it be people, companies, options, or information? Because of the internet, we're often bombarded with numbers and possibilities. Try Googling ducks right now, and trust me, there are going to be over 110 million results. Perhaps now saying that the world is actually getting bigger sounds better. The truth is, I believe, that the phenomenon we're living currently is simply ambiguous. Some might argue that the feeling of it getting bigger is more legitimate than that it's getting smaller, or the other way around. However, what we all should agree with is that we're living in a world defined by connectedness. We are more connected, and thus, access is less limited. The consequences? Different people and businesses are brought closer, so it is possible to talk, watch, listen to those who are far, and also to use or even buy products or services, regardless of the location of the producers, which can make it seem like our options are almost endless. And overall, it can be said that this ambiguous situation is just at its beginning. The world is immersed in a globalized tendency that brings countries closer, while also expands the accessibility of its populations. What I want to defend is that we use this in order to grow as a society. The philosopher George Santayana once said that those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. I, on the other hand, would add that those who do not recognize the present are also compromising progress. We should learn from the mistakes and successes of others. Use the information we have for good, and help the ones that we now know that need help. So, bigger or smaller, I believe we should try to make the world better. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your speech, Julia. Now, have you got questions from the audience here from Zoom first? Any questions from the other candidates? And you guys, yes, Julia, Bib, you have a question. So Julia, you can open your microphone and camera, and you can ask her. You can ask Julia your question.
My question is, what do you think is the role of influential people like Kim Kardashian in our society?
Sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question. When is the word?
What do you think is the role of influential?
Okay, so I also believe that influencers have an ambiguous role because for sure, most of them defend that they're only doing it for entertainment. So they're doing for fun, for people to actually have a free time and see someone else's life, think about something else. But there is also a huge responsibility in the role of digital influencers because influence is something so strong that can make you actually decide how you're going to deal with your life. So I believe that influencers also have a role with lots of responsibility that they should recognize. Oh, that's it.
Okay, we've got no questions from the YouTube audience, so maybe the judges, Sandra, Lucas, or Lenora, you can ask Julia your question. Okay, so maybe the judges, Lucas, Lenora, or Sandra? Lenora, go ahead.
Hi, Ma. Hi, Julia. You mentioned that countries are being brought closer together. What about the individuality of each country? Do you believe that they get lost in the process? What are your views on that?
I believe that this shock of cultures can have both a good resolution and can also be bad, because shock of cultures can also mean fights and simply ideologies confronting each other, and this can be dangerous. And I have the hope that we can use this shock of cultures for good, that we can learn from each other. And there is proof that having a more rich culture that has a little bit of different cultures can be positive. But I will not come here only with rose-tinted ideas. I think it can be dangerous. It can lead humankind to war even. But I definitely hope for the best, that we can actually use this contact within different cultures into something good. Yeah. Thank you for your question.
Okay, Julia, thank you so much for your speech. Now, Fernanda, who is our next speaker?
Próximo candidato, Klaus.
Klaus, you can open your camera and microphone, yes? Okay, Klaus, I can see you, hi. So when you're ready, you can start.
All right, I'm ready. When I think about the word is immensity and complexity, and when I think about my problems and how time they are, there's a quote from the writer Clarice Pacheco. 510,100,000 kilometers. That's the size of Earth, which doesn't even reach the 3 largest planets in the solar system. With a population and so far the only one of 7.8 billion people. Okay, wait. So you are telling me that we are in a huge rock floating in space with more than 7 billion people in it, and you're okay with that? You just accept and live your life? Okay then. When I look at the stars, I feel like I'm in both in past and future at the same time. I can't even imagine that most of them are bigger than our own planet. Being in the past and the future at the same time. We are in the present. For many people, looking at this distant globe, we finding hope, beauty, inspiration. We are in the past. When we are seeing a glow of stars who are not even there anymore. And in the future, at the same time, because at some point in the universe, we are the past. In such a big world, things are not good as it seems, even if we disregard the current scenario. Over 59% of the world population is in Asia. 18% is in China only. 86% of the world population are on or below the hunger and poverty line, with families living with less than $1 a day. And some countries, such as China, being forced to impose laws like the one-child law, was imposed in the mid-70s and revoked only in 2015. Even 6 years later, the country still has not managed to recover from the economic crisis caused by this law. The world of these people are tiny. There is no more physical space. Physical and mental health are compromised. On the other hand, we have many countries in Europe who have birth rates so low that they need immigrants because they don't have people for the basic essential service. The world of these people are immense and abundant. Their main concern is to generate new citizens. There are two sides of the same coin. I know, I came here, I'm throwing data everywhere, and I wouldn't be able to do that without the internet. We reach a point that we can't live without it. Without the internet, with the internet, this is possible. We are here right now in this event. You can hear me, all because of this magic thing that we could create. It's clear for me and you that we can't live without it anymore. For many, internet is a ledger. For others, it's a weapon. A tool, it's power. Now, regarding the current scenario, especially here in Brazil, I have the whole world in my hands. I can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. And this is my reality, which is very different from 3.6 billion people who doesn't have internet access. 50% who are women is two obstacles for the same person. For them, a giant, scary, and unknown world. The world in 4 inches are in the security of your children's tomorrow. The world can be welcome, such as a hug full of incredible discoveries. I believe that the world is the biggest and the smallest it's ever been, and it's only up to us, the future generation, to create a world big enough for everyone or small just for us. My name is Klaus, and this was my speech, How Big's Your World?
Thank you so much, Klaus, for your speech. Now, have we got questions from the other candidates here in the Zoom room? Okay, I guess we have a question from the YouTube audience. And the question is, Klaus, so Luana has a question to you. So she says, I have a question. You talked about the past and the future. What's your view of the present then?
Well, for me, the past and the future doesn't exist really. we are in the past and the future at the same time, and we call this the present. Because a second that has passed is the past. The next second is the future, but I'm living right now. I forget the past, the future is unknown. So everything is the present.
Thank you. So maybe a question from the judges now.
Okay, right. You mentioned so many people in the world, right? So many people. And for this past just over a year, everybody's been indoors with the pandemic. Do you think being indoors and having more access to internet, are people more aware of what's going on with other people in the world? Because being indoors, you end up reading a lot and going more on the internet. So I wonder if they have more access to information and are more wary of what's going on.
Oh, well, I don't think so. I think we are aware of the people who are living the coronavirus and the people we lost. We can scale it, but I really need to search to find those data that I bring here. And I didn't know before I researched this, nobody said to me. So I don't think people are so aware. We are caring for don't spread the virus, don't take in it, but we don't know about the 3.6 billion people don't have internet access. So even if we have, we can only see what we want. If we want to close our eyes and make everything up, the coronavirus doesn't exist, we can do it with internet.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Klaus, for your speech. Now, Fernanda, our next speaker is
Julia Abib.
Julia Abib. If you can hear us, please open your camera and microphone. Okay, Julia, when you're ready, you can start. Good luck.
Okay, let's go. The world's bigger and smaller than it's ever been. One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, said Louis Armstrong when an astronaut first stepped on the moon. Good night, my name is Julia, and I'm here to talk about the world. Yes, you heard it right. When we talk about the world nowadays, the first thing that comes to our mind is the pandemic, right? But what changed during this troubled period? Is the world bigger or smaller? I guess it's safe to say that all of our concepts have changed since, well, last year. More specifically, in March. We have redefined empathy. We learned about the importance of physical touch, which has never been more important in times like this. We are witnessing a great chapter of history being written right before our eyes. But Julia, what does this have to do with it all? Well, let me explain. Human beings tend to adapt to every situation, and technology, our greatest ally, has gradually become a nuisance. Technology allows us to communicate with relatives and friends without violating social distancing. And well, take selfies. At the same time, the levels of dependence on these devices have never been higher. However, thanks to the internet, we are having this conversation right now. We have learned to combine the useful with the pleasant. In terms of population, if we compare our lives to living in 1960, have gained a few billion companions in the world. And why is that? As I said earlier, the power of adaptation. Development of more appropriate laws, advancement in science with medicines, and treatment for diseases, a better quality of life depending on where we live. And these are just a tiny part of the factors of improvements provided by adaptation and our intellectual power. And with that information, we can say that, yes, the world is bigger, and I dare to say even better, but smaller at the same time, with the distance reduced to a click on the screen. Isn't that great? But in the midst of wave of improvements, our mental health is being seriously affected. During the pandemic, 4 out of 10 adults, about 40%, in the US have reported symptoms of anxiety and depressive disorder, according to Kaiser Family Foundation. Our generation was already marked by the internet, and now sadly by the pandemic. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, the world is bigger and smaller than it's ever been, both at the same time, thanks to the various advances and discoveries that make our lives easier. An example of that? The fridge. Why the refrigerator? Have you stopped to think where we would be without it? Using extremely old methods for preservation, of course. Its short duration, high risk of food poisoning, no cold drinks whenever we want. We would not even be able to conserve food for a few hours, and consequently, the whole concept of obtaining food would be different. Can you see how a small thing can make a huge difference? Or even fire. Going back to Paleolithic, imagine if man had never mastered fire. Where would we be? Actually, don't answer that. Every piece of history, be it big or small, composes our world, our reality, our lives. Therefore, we must always analyze our surroundings. We must try to understand how we got here, the causes, the consequences, everything. And the most important thing of all, always look forward, always seek advancement, progress. Why is that? Well, because that's the main reason we are here. Likewise, Louis Armstrong said, a small step for the man will always be a step for mankind. And with that said, I finish my presentation. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Good night.
Thank you so much for your speech, Julia. Now, let me see if we've got questions from the audience here, from the Zoom room, or from the YouTube streaming live. Let me see. Questions? We're still waiting for some questions. Lucas is already there, ready. Lucas, we can start with your question. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia, for your speech. You mentioned the figure of 40% of grown-ups in the United States suffering from anxiety and in relation to the pandemics. Would you say that such problems are exclusive to a moment of greater challenge for the world, or no? And then why?
I think that our mental health is being severely affected by the world itself, how it's changing in these times. Of course, the pandemic made it all worse, 10 times worse. But the technology, the dependence of these devices, the isolation, everything is contributing for our minds to adapt and change. And a lot of people can be really affected by that because we are in a delicate situation right now. The whole world is changing. Everybody's changing. The Twitter is saying about lots of things that's happening right now. In Instagram, we have hashtags, everything is affecting us 10 times harder with the internet and isolation with the pandemic, of course.
Julia, okay, Julia. Now we have a question from the audience, from YouTube channel. The question comes from Joanna, and she says, Julia, you talked about the invention of the refrigerator. Which other invention do you think people can't live without?
As I said earlier, our power of adaptation is really high, and as more of devices we invent and use, the more dependence we create. So obviously, we cannot live without internet. That's out of the league right now. We need internet, we need computers, we need the refrigerator, the most simple things that we created. We cannot live without anymore because our world is now adapted to these things, and when it disappears, we just don't know what to do. Like when the light goes off and you have just a candle, we are completely trapped. We don't know how to do everything. So anything. So it's really, really difficult because all of our creations are really important to us because we adapted to it every day.
Thank you so much, Julia, for your speech. Now, Fernanda, our next speaker for the competition is?
Leonardo.
Leonardo. Okay, Leonardo Aragão. Okay, Leonardo, when you're ready, you can start. Good luck.
Yeah, I can go. So, hello, my name is Leonardo. I'm 17 years old, and I'm from the academic IPT group. I'm here today to present you how the world lost its charms based on the fact that it's getting bigger and smaller at the same time. So, as we're at home now because of the coronavirus and pandemic thing, we have been connected to the internet the whole day. So, because of that, we are connected to the world the whole day. Everything is happening right in front of us, right in front of our faces, and our brains can't process everything. It's hard. It needs a lot of work. But obviously, this doesn't apply to the ones that aren't caring about the world situation right now, so don't mind about them. But with a simple click, we can text someone that is far from us, in the other side of the world. With a simple search on the internet, we can see what is happening miles and miles and miles away from where we are. And that's the power of communication. That's the power of internet. And it's good, it's perfect. And this power can connect us to all the earth, everyone in the earth, all of the 510,100,000 miles. So it's perfect. There's no big deal with it. But on the other hand, at the same time where we are glad but exhausted about the amount of information that we get, when we sit down and start to organize our thoughts, for example, put them in a table or on the wall and start to connect everything, we see that the world is not that small. For example, still talking about the pandemic thing, we see other countries making new vaccines. We did vaccines too, there's no problem, but think about the other countries. When Russia made the first vaccine, we were happy, we were thrilled to bits, and the internet, the world was, and that's no problem, that's good. But we need to remember, we need to be more grounded to remember that there is a lot of obstacles, a lot of bureaucracy to the vaccine finally comes to us. It's not that simple. It won't be next weekend or tomorrow in our blood, in our body. So we need to start to think more and not let the internet give us that fake feeling of a smaller world. And still thinking about the bigger and the smaller about the earth, forget about the pandemic and forget about the internet. Let's see on my point of view. In my point of view, when we are kids, there is a lot of mystery around everything. We don't deal with the problems and the new, if you can call that. Think about a kid of 12 years old. Their parents are trying really hard to pay for a bill. What is that for the kid? Nothing. The kid won't care about it. So the kid is interested in other things. They have other targets. They need to know who they are. They are trying to search more about the earth. They are trying to know the limits of the earth, the limits of their bodies. So that's not their problem. But once you grow and those problems start to come to you, you feel trapped. There's no way out. You feel trapped. It's like walls around you. Those problems start to become walls. And still talking about bills, for example, if you don't pay your electricity bill, how are you going to cook? How are you going to have a shower? That's a big problem. So we don't have just one wall. We need 4 to close you, and you feel like you don't have any other space, just the one you have to breathe and survive. And think about the bills you didn't pay. If you don't pay the electricity, the shower is a wall around you because you won't have a shower. How you're going to cook, it's another wall. So we already have 3. And that one missing, for example, it's really easy to be constructed. It's really easy to rise around you. Problems depend from each other, but it's easy to rise. It's not that difficult. And in conclusion, I know that I presented 2 ideas. In the first one, we can see how if we think more grounded, how things end and how we think about. And in the second, we can see how our point of view changes over the years and how your life can get a cruel summer or be really difficult. But where I'm trying to get is the world is the world. It's big and no one can deny it. And it will never change. You change. Your point of view change over the years because of the limits that humanity establishes for you. That's it. Thank you. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much, Klaus. Sorry, Leonardo, for your question. Now we have questions, let me see, from the audience, maybe from YouTube, or we might have questions from you guys, from the audience, the other candidates. Questions for Leonardo? So maybe Lenora, Lucas, or Sandra, you can ask Leonardo.
I have a question.
Marcela Sintra has got a question. Okay, Marcela, you can ask.
Not the audience, but I have a question. Leonardo, how do you think, you mentioned the challenges and everything, how do you think we could deal more effectively with the current challenges facing the world?
First thing, I need you to think about yourself, I guess. If you think more grounded or you are more like a dreamer. So that's the first part you need to see. Evaluate yourself. So then you can deal with the world and the other problems. First work with you, then your problems, then what's happening around the world. That's it.
Thank you so much, Leo. Any other question? Lenora, go ahead.
Thank you, Marcelo. Hi, Leonardo. Congratulations on your speech. You mentioned that the world is big and small at the same time, and what changes is our point of view that changes throughout the years. So what would you suggest young people to do so that they stop hoping and waiting for solutions or changes to come from outside, but they become more responsible for their choices so that they can change the world?
So first thing I need you, I guess, to organize your life, organize your problems, organize what you have to do. So then you don't have to worry about the outside. You don't need the outside to help you. If you, first of all, find a way that you can organize how you're going to feel about it, how you're going to provide it, you don't need to worry about how the outside is going to help you. You have already set yourself on the right way. That's it.
Thank you so much, Leonardo, for your speech. Now, Fernanda, our next speaker for the competition is...
Sophia.
Sophia. Okay, Sophia, hi. Sophia, when you're ready, you can start your speech. Good luck.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm ready. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophia, and it's a great pleasure to be here tonight talking about a very unique subject, This world is smaller and bigger than it's ever been. Well, first, I would like to start with a question. How big is the Earth? That's really interesting, right? It's not something that we might ask ourselves every day because, well, at first sight, it seems like a pretty much explored topic by science. Let me tell you a story. More than 2,000 years ago, Eratosthenes compared the position of the sun rays in two locations in order to calculate the spherical size of our planet. Today, with satellites and drones, we are able to view even the smallest details of an isolated island in the Pacific. So, if calculating the size of the Earth is no longer a challenge for humanity, should we just accept the proposition that we are living on a floating rock in space? No, of course not. Because the Earth is not just made of matter and dust, it's composed by approximately 7 billion people who are breathing, crying, dreaming, giving birth, and even dying as I'm talking now. Which leads me to the famous quotation of Leibniz, "The universe in which we live is the best of all possible worlds." But is it really plausible to affirm the consistency of this thought nowadays in a world that, at the same time, seems so tangible but also so great in its vastness? Well, my dear audience, certainly it can be argued that the globalization has brought progress and modernity to our society. Being connected means being able to interact at any place and at any time. It also means that now we have the power to change the meaning of a place. In breaking the natural ties of locality, globalization has altered fundamental concepts which once relied upon the definition of a specific geographical territory. That's why the Earth sometimes seems so compact that we can carry it on our smartphones or even computers. Isn't it magical? It's almost as if the Earth itself was portable. The screens we touch are all associated in this global network through which we not only interact with others, but also build our identity. We can share our experiences and also reach the sensibility of other people with the joys and the pains of our lives. But even though the physical distances that separate us have been made microscopic, we are now jointly affected by problems of global concern. We suffer the consequences of the global warming, the corporate accountability, the ecological responsibility, and even the pandemic as one. One world, one humanity. Together, as one, we take part in this world so connected that it seems to fit in the palm of our hands. But as Leonardo da Vinci once said, when you put your hand on a flowing stream, you see the last that has gone before and the first of what is still to come. And what is still to come? Well, let me tell you, an impressive paradox. Because if the world is globalizing the areas of economics, international law, fundamental rights, and even the pandemic, the disparities have not been erased. The harsh reality faced by undeveloped countries contrasts with the progress experienced by modern nations. So, it's pretty reasonable that we ask ourselves, who are we? Because now, apparently, we only exist as long as our internet connection continues. I am, well, we all are here tonight, the image that the other side of the screen shows of us. Nothing is made to last, yet we still keep fighting to be noticed in this abyss generated by the virtual world. That's why we see the proliferation of ethnics, religious, and regional hostilities. This world is big, yes, but because our differences seem bigger. So, how can we describe this planet that we are all living now? Is it big because we are relatively small? Or are we just tiny as a consequence of our plurality as human beings? Is it huge due to the fact that it offers so much for us to discover? Or is it enormous as it compresses our identity? These questions are not easy to answer at all. After all, the diversity and sameness of this new world order poses a challenge for those wanting to capture the beautiful dynamism of our society right now. And this is very interesting, as it proves that the statement of Leibniz is still pretty accurate. Indeed, we live in the best of all possible worlds, as ours is bigger and it's smaller than it's ever been. I sincerely appreciate your attention today, and I thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for your speech. Now let us check whether we have questions from the audience, whether from Zoom here or from YouTube. Let's just wait for some minutes. Questions for Sophia, guys. The ones who are here on Zoom with us or online via YouTube streaming. While you wait, we might have questions from the judges. So we can hear from the judges and you can ask her, you can ask Sandra, go ahead. You can ask Sophia your question.
Yes. Sophia, you mentioned about having the Earth in your computer, in your telephone, for example. Can now, at the same time, people talk, there are people who prefer to watch it, see the world on their computer than to actually travel. What would you say is a negative point of seeing the world on your computer and not actually the actual location? Of course, there's the fun part of traveling, but what else could you add to that?
Well, thank you so much for your question, Sandra. And I think that we might take as an example the word itself, humanity. We are humans because we are social beings. We need social interaction. And of course, we can have it using internet or using our computers. But it's not the same when you visit a place, you talk to the people, you feel the weather, and you hear that amazing foreign language. It's not the same if you see it from your computer because you are in your house. You are in a known environment. You don't exchange cultures. And that can be really, of course, it's amazing that we have this opportunity, but it's not the same as going to a place and experiencing something new. Because after all, we are social beings. We are human beings. And what makes us who we are is our connection, is what we do with the rest of the world. The world is not just our house, it's not just the internet. There's much more for us to discover.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Now we've got a new question. Maybe Marcela Sintra wants to ask you a question. Go ahead, Marcela.
I do have a question, and now I have a camera working. Sophia, you mentioned lots of dangers to the diversity and the way people deal with that. With all the tools you also talked about, how do you think the world, humanity, can tackle diversity in a more productive, more positive manner?
Well, thank you for your question, Marcela. And this is actually really difficult for us to answer, right? Because if we all had this answer, we wouldn't have this huge amount of problems that we are having today in this international scenario. But actually, I think that we need to understand that what makes us humans is our diversity. Because if everyone were the same, we would actually be a society of robots, for example. And we wouldn't have like different languages, different places, different cultures. And sometimes the society nowadays thinks as a cell, right? So everything that is strange and is entering the space of our cell should be expelled. And some countries have taken this apparently to this huge level of prejudice that they expel everything that they don't feel that belongs there. So I think we should think about the world as a huge body, and everyone is a part of this body and is contributing for our life. We need diversity, otherwise we wouldn't be who we are, and we wouldn't have this amazing development that we have nowadays. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for your presentation and speech. Now, Faye, just before you raffle the name, we have now more 3 candidates. So we have Gabriela, Martins, Pedro, and Lara, right? So
right.
3 more speakers. So the next speaker for our ESU competition is?
Gabriela.
Gabriela.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me well?
Okay, we can hear you. When you're ready, you can start, Gabi.
Okay, I'm ready. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Gabriela, and I'm here to tell you my speech that is, each world is a whole universe. The world is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. What is world? Because my world is different from yours. Have a globalization and internet really expanded our horizons and integrated people and nations even more? In my point of view, it depends. Because we are in a pandemic, and although we have internet 24 hours per day to get connected with people, most of us are feeling lonely and is going outside. So isn't the concept of becoming smaller or bigger subjective? Because I know there is a whole world with thousands of cities beyond mine, but my world and my home is here with my family and friends. Thinking about that, is the world something physical, or is it a matter of familiarity? Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you of something before answering those questions. Open your minds and forget all definitions about the world. Follow my logical reasoning. You are people that can watch me, you can listen to me, have 2 arms, 2 legs. But what if when you are on your way to, I don't know, the grocery, a car knocks you down? But you don't die. You become quadriplegic. Yeah, I know it may seem awful. Actually, it is awful, but imagine you can only move your face muscles. You depend on others to eat, to go to the bathroom, to do everything. Then you would probably think, what is my role now? I'm stuck in a wheelchair, being in my room or in a clinic most of the time, taking lots of pills every day. But as any other quadriplegic, you don't give up. Why? Why still live if you barely interact with the physical world around you? Well, maybe because the meaning of world is different from one person to another. So I consider being in the shoes of someone in the situation I just mentioned. Despite all those limitations, would you, that is listening to me now, would you be willing to give up on life? Your family, your friends, the people you love? I bet you wouldn't. Why? Because they became your world. And although in this case your physical world has been restricted to a wheelchair, you find yourself in the most valuable spot in the whole universe, don't you? I can give you another example. Now you're probably, I think, in your bedroom and walk into the kitchen. Seems something so easy, doesn't it? But imagine you are blind. To get to the kitchen, you have to walk carefully and grope in furniture and walls not to fall down. Hard, isn't it? And it's just to get to the kitchen. So simple. Then you want to make a coffee. You bring the cups, the powder, boiling water, sugar. At the end of it, you are extremely happy because you made a coffee without dropping anything. Yeah, in the world of a blind person, it is so redefined. However, in ours, it is taken for granted. Piece of cake. Which simply shows that the meaning of world is really different from one person to another. My world, how much things mean to me, is just a matter of perspective. At the end of the day, I believe it is wiser to think of what or who your world is. And let us for one moment remind the brilliant Stephen Hawking, who having been given 2 years of life, being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. He went on to live more than 2 decades, making awesome contributions to science. He, Stephen Hawking, was a living example of one world that expanded the meaning of the universe. Thank you for for your attention. I hope you enjoy it, okay?
Thank you so much, Gabi, for your speech presentation. Now let us see whether we have questions for you from YouTube channel or from the other candidates here from our room Zoom, maybe from the judges as well. Okay, Lucas.
Hi, Gabi. Thank you for your speech. Gabi, you mentioned about the subjectivity of the size of the world. You mentioned that it can be big or small depending on the person who sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you say then the world of 7 billion people connects if each person has their own world?
We have internet to get connected. I admit that. But like, we are not our own world. We don't, like me, Gabriela, I'm not my world. It's not, my world is not only me. It's my family, my cat, my friends, the guy from the supermarket. So this is how the world is integrated, because the world is not only ours. It's from everybody. So this integration is really important because it makes our world more complete. Yeah.
Okay, Gabi, we have a question from our YouTube channel, and the question comes from Joanna, and she says, great speech, Gabi. You mentioned different definitions of the world. What is your definition of the world?
Like, world for me is my family. Every time I think of giving up life because everything gets harder, like school, the fear of the university, I think, why? Why should I not give up? My family. I think of my sister, my mother, my father, my cat. And when I think of them, I think, yeah, they are my world. They matter. So I should not give up because I have them and they are my world. So it's very subjective. Yeah, no, for you, it can be other thing, but for me, it's that, okay?
Thank you so much, Gabi, for your speech. Now, Fernanda, our next speaker for the ESU competition is?
Lara.
Lara, if you can hear us, you can open your camera now.
Okay, can you see me?
Okay, Lara, we can hear you well. When you're ready, you can start.
Okay. Okay. A big floating rock. Good evening, my dear audience. My name is Lara Celeste, and it's a pleasure to be talking here tonight. And without further ado, tonight I'll give a speech about a paradox. The world is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. I would like to start talking about comparative measurements, especially material ones. We live on an enormous floating rock. That's literally the definition of the planet Earth. A big floating rock that spins around its own spindle, and it also revolves around a monstrous burning star so hot that can breach the layer we live on, and all of those being in thousands of kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, we human beings are so unaware of our tiny size compared to the big piece of land we live in. We may be overcoming our feeling of importance we have. Also, both ways on this, as we're very small compared to Earth, and bugs are also very small compared to us. That little small thing as a virus, since we're talking about material size, can become as big as a pandemic. The world nowadays
is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. We human beings gather together to the same situation, the same big situation, where we're all one thing with our masks on, and where the sick people are all one in their isolation.
Okay, we had a connection, internet problems with Lara. That's okay, no worries, Lara. We are trying to reconnect her. I guess you can all hear me well. Fernanda, if you can hear me, Fernanda, are you there? Okay, so let's invert our order. So maybe you can have Pedro. Lara, we cannot hear you well, but that's okay. Just wait a minute. We're gonna try to help you with the connection. Maybe Fernanda, let's have Pedro. Lara, I guess we are facing internet problems from your connection, maybe.
Podemos ir para o Pedro, eu falo com ela na paralela aqui, tá bom?
Okay, so we can have Pedro first, and then we can wrap the competition with Lara. We can give her a second chance. That's okay.
Okay.
So Pedro,
can you
when
hear
you're
me?
ready, you can start. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm ready. I am Pedro Perrotti, and I am here to presenting microorganism Big Learn. I am here to talk about the world. The world is in a constant change, and those changes, whether small or large, affect each individual in Earth, directly or indirectly, with lesser or greater impacts, but undoubtedly making them have a different point of view of the same world. Decades ago, people stood up as the center of the universe, understanding that everything around them was created to meet their own satisfaction. Over the years, in a more modern context, the human being has become aware of that the planet is bigger than we are capable of thinking, which means that the Earth itself is a grain of sand in relation to the size of the solar system, which in turn is a drop in the ocean of the infinity universe. Nevertheless, the human being is fully aware of the size of his insignificance when compared to the immensity of the universe that surrounds him. People insist on continuing to live inside their own bubbles, worrying only about themselves and their groups of relationship in their social media and those kinds of things. Regardless of the
Because new
impact
things
and
are being
intensity
discovered every day
of the changes,
related to each other via culture
the
or a
human
newfound
being
disease.
persists in his self-centeredness. Currently, these global changes are related to a microorganism that can literally impact and change the life of the whole world. This virus does not distinguish ethnicities, skin colors, cultures, social status, or religions, and even in a greater view, it crosses borders, ignores distances between nations, disregards the socioeconomic status of the country, does not take in account neither military power nor industrial development, much less care if the country is democratic, republican, communist, capitalist, socialist, imperialist, and so on. It's strange, isn't it? Because all of those things ignored by this virus, we all care a lot. Almost everybody care about those things. Should we care about it? What I mean by this is that despite of the fears and anguish that this virus has brought, we must also understand that the arrival of this virus, as any other social tragedy, can bring us a life lesson that should become a standard of social behavior, in which we may develop empathy, compassion, and connection, solidarity, things that make us as human beings. We all have to understand that we are united at the same pain, the same suffering, and the same fear right now. So we all have to help each other. Although I find it difficult, I really would like it to happen for people to take this opportunity and understand to expand their minds and believe in the transformative power of the moment. Within human beings, there are countless possibilities which are there to be developed. Therefore, we all have good and bad things within us, but it's up to us to let the best flow out. Some people may see this moment as an opportunity for develop their relationships with anyone, with people, with friends, co-workers, with your family, maybe with your city, your state, your country, or social media, your whole world, or maybe with it, even with the nature. As much as people are suffering right now, this is a time when many people are feeling grateful for the good, simple things in their life that make them happy. This pain that we are all feeling will only be worth it if we learn something from it. So we have to understand that the world is bigger for some people and smaller for others, because everybody has your own world while living at the same planet. I am Pedro Perrotti, and thank you so much for your attention.
Pedro, thank you so much for your presentation and your understanding, because I noticed Lara entered the room while you were speaking, but you kept your natural speech. Thank you so much. Now we have questions from the audience, and also maybe questions from the judges here from our room. I can see there is a question from the YouTube streaming channel. So the question is, the question comes from Amanda. The question is, do you envisage a world without the acknowledgement of these marked human differences, religious, cultures, political orientation? Is it attainable?
I don't think so. As I said in this speech, like we are all connected nowadays by social media or those kinds of things, but we all have to understand that this is more than just like everyone has their own word, and you want to show it for people. Like I have mine, you have yours, but we all are in the same. Nowadays, we are suffering the same pain as everyone. So the human being must be connected by some way. Nowadays, we are using internet as a possibility, but usually this is not a possibility.
Okay, thank you so much, Pedro. Now, Lenora, go ahead.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Pedro, for your speech. You mentioned the transformative power of the moment, and that it's up to us to choose the good or the bad and to be grateful and to learn something from it. So in your point of view, what are we learning as humanity? What are we learning from the moment you're living?
Okay, thank you for your question. And we all have different things for learn. It depends of your own world. As I said, everyone are suffering, but different things. Those changes make us have different opinions and different difficulties. So in my opinion, one thing that is in common about everybody at this moment is solidarity. And a lot of people, maybe everyone, is learning how to be more solidarity, or like a lesson for your whole life and your behavior. And maybe everybody is feeling too grateful, like for your own world and your own life, like simple things in your life that make you happy. A lot of people can feel this right now, nowadays. So I think those things are common for each people.
So Pedro, thank you so much for your speech right now. And now we can have Lara again. Lara, can you hear us now?
I can. I tried to connect to the internet again. I hope this time it will work.
Okay, so Lara, can you open your camera?
I think that the host needs to allow me. Oh, right. Yeah, here. Okay.
Okay, Lara, when you're ready, you can start your speech now.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you well, Lara. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Again, good evening, my dear audience. My name is Lara Celeste, and it's a pleasure to be talking here tonight. And without further ado, tonight I'll give a speech about a paradox. The world is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. I would like to start talking about comparative measurements, especially material ones. We live on an enormous floating rock. That's literally the definition of the planet Earth. A big floating rock that spins around its own spindle and that also revolves around a monstrous burning star, so hot that can reach the layer we live on, and all of those being in thousands of kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, we, human beings, are so unaware of our tiny size compared to the big piece of land we live in that we may be overcoming the feeling of importance we have. But also, we have both ways on this, as we're very small compared to Earth, ants and some bugs are also very small compared to us. That leads us to my main point, which is how such a small thing as a virus, since we're talking about material size, can become as big as a pandemic. The world nowadays is bigger and smaller than it's ever been. We human beings gathered together to the same situation, the same big situation, where we're all one thing with our masks on, and where the sick people are all one in their isolation. Talking about the sick, the infected, I would like to share with you, my dear audience, a quote from the Broadway musical Hamilton, where George Washington, in the middle of the war, says, "Dying is easy, living is harder." But how can this have anything to do with the main point of the speech? Well, think about it. Yesterday, April 4th, Brazil came across over 2,700 deaths in 24 hours. The hospitals are full. The people who are there or who are trying to are drowned in fear and despair. And doctors are working tirelessly, honoring their oath and vocation. Those doctors who give their all, who give their entire lives to try to save at least one among so many. One life for another, but sometimes it's one life for none. I was talking about human size compared to Earth, but I would like to add something to complement how humans think they're bigger than it and even bigger than each other. They're bigger than others' lives, bigger than those who are breathing unconsciously through a tube with the hope that they one day will wake up. The human ego is the only thing that can be bigger than everything I've mentioned before, besides fear, because from the moment that the egocentric feels that horrible shiver down their spine, be it because they lost their money or because it's their fault that their relatives now staying in the hospital, their ego is gone. And everything that stays is fear and its daughter, guilt. In such a situation, living is harder in a lot of ways. Maybe because you had to stop working and have to take money out of nowhere to give food to your children who you're not used to spending that much of time with. Or maybe because you're someone who's working in the front lines at the hospital and you can't hug your daughter when you go home, if you ever do, because there's fear in their eyes and in yours. Or even because you're fighting for your life through oxygen machines. On the other hand, if you die, you just die. No one can touch you. Your family can't see you, and you go straight to the cemetery. I know there is the grief, but that's not on you. That's on those you left behind, those who are finding it so hard to be alive. See what I mean? Who has the right to tell what is big and what is small? A virus is physically small, yes, but look what it became. Earth is big, yes, but the people who live on it are even bigger when together for or against something, even each other. The world is bigger because there are more people being born every minute, because new things are being discovered every day. But it is smaller because we're getting closer and closer to each other via either culture or a newfound disease. And that's why we need to work as one big thing to get through this. Thank you for your attention and for your time. This was my speech, A Big Floating Rock, and it was a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Lara, for your speech. Now let us check whether we have questions from the audience, from the YouTube channel, or questions from the room here. We can start with the questions from the Zoom room, maybe from the judges. Go ahead. Okay, Lucas, your question.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you for your speech. You mentioned...
Just the direction, Lucas. Lara, okay?
Sorry.
Okay, all right. It's all right.
Sorry. Hi, Lara. That wasn't correct.
Okay, it's
Lara, you mentioned the size of the world and the size of each person. How would you say, what would you say is your size? How big are you in your influence? And how do you think you can use it in the world?
Well, thanks. Thank you for your question. I think that my size is pretty relative based on the generation I belong to. Generation Z is becoming one of the most innovative generations of all time, and we're getting used to technology, but we weren't born with it. So I guess that me, as a Gen Z, I think that my size, if I want to and if I pursue it, it can be big enough to influence the whole world, but not alone. I think that I need to do it together with others so that we can make a difference.
Thank you so much, Lara, for your question. Now I have a question from the audience, from the YouTube channel. It comes from Flavia, and her question is, Lara, how do you see yourself in the world?
I see myself as a 16-year-old teenager who is filled with dreams and with a lot of purposes. And I also feel that if I have a purpose, I must pursue it, as I said. But I can't overdream things. I need to get my head straight, and to reach my purposes, I need to focus and become not like a non-dreamer, because dreaming is fundamental for living. So I need to balance between dreaming and reality.
Lara, thank you so much for your speech and your responses, your questions, and your answers. Fernanda, I guess we've finished all the presentations for the day. We're going to have now the judges debating, deliberating the winners and the runner-ups. We are back in 10 minutes. You don't have to leave the Zoom room here, and those who are watching us via YouTube channel, you can stay tuned. We are back with the two winners. So wait for us. And while you're waiting, and I guess there will be some video playing, just a correction, okay? Because Amanda has sent us a question to Pedro, and I pronounce the word as in French, envisage, but Americans, British, they say visage. Just a quick correction, because it came to me like, because she was using a French word, and in English, people might pronounce it differently. Now, judges, you can leave the room so we can debate and discuss. Candidates, you can stay here, and those from the audience, stay with us. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Aprender inglês conecta você com um mundo novo de possibilidades. E é isso que nós da Cultura Inglesa oferecemos para os nossos alunos, com novas formas de aprendizado, inovação, atividades culturais e uso real da língua, proporcionando a segurança que você precisa para assistir um filme sem legenda, impressionar em uma entrevista de emprego ou aproveitar uma viagem internacional com tranquilidade. Porque na cultura, o estudo vai muito além da sala de aula. Ele faz parte de um conjunto de experiências que dão liberdade e autonomia para o aluno. Você pode acompanhar a aula ao vivo pela internet. Pode acessar a nossa plataforma gamificada de aprendizagem com conteúdos digitais. Praticar o inglês batendo papo com outros alunos pelo Chat Club ou conversando pelo WhatsApp com o Speaking Boost, a nossa inteligência artificial. Em caso de dúvida, é só acessar o eTutor, que a sua resposta chega rapidinho. Oferecemos também uma imersão cultural com o Culture Plus, nova oferta cultural renovada, modernizada e ampliada. Assim você aprende inglês explorando algumas das suas maiores paixões. E ainda tem podcasts, jogos educativos, e-campus, webinars, campeonatos de e-games e muito mais. Acessível para você, sem contrato de fidelidade, sem taxa de matrícula e parcelamento facilitado. E com os melhores professores de inglês do Brasil. Conta pra gente, Hugo.
Se você quer aprender inglês de verdade com o suporte pedagógico e tecnológico que você precisa, faça sua classificação para descobrir qual a melhor trilha a seguir e venha estudar com a gente aqui, na Cultura Inglesa.
Aqui na Cultura, você vive uma experiência completa e aprende inglês de um jeito único. Porque inglês, cultura inglesa, só na Cultura Inglesa. Nos siga nas redes sociais.
It's been about traveling around the world while you're in London in just 5 days.
This is an international competition. It's one that involves over 50 countries, about 50,000 young people aged between 16 and 20 from all over the world, and they take part in national public speaking competitions in their country. The winners then come to the UK for the final, which is all about helping young people to discover their voice.
It is an extremely important event that unites young people all over the world. They start to embrace diversity.
But on top of all that, what they're learning is how to marshal arguments and persuade people, so they are going to become very important in their own countries. This is at the heart of international diplomacy.
If you take the world map, I believe people who use their voice can be those who take your country as small cities to a bigger platform. So I believe I'm here to use my voice to make my mark, not only in London, but also an international platform, and show them that Sri Lanka is more than just a few kilometers.
I myself come from an underprivileged background in the Philippines. It's not very usual for underprivileged people in the Philippines to actually speak English, for example, so I am very, very lucky. I want to be the voice for the people like me, like those who come from underprivileged backgrounds.
It's much more than the competition. The young people, when they come to London in May each year, spend a whole week together.
The cultural exchange that's involved is enormous.
It is a melting pot. The variety of people that you're going to meet, the mixing of cultures. We come from different realities, and the fact that we all speak the same language, it was amazing.
I loved that place. It was a great experience walking in London. It's very different from Sri Lanka, but I loved the country.
In the days leading up to the heats, people are going to be talking to us about their speeches. They're going to be delivering parts of them to us one-on-one.
They trained us in voice modulation, being like a bit dramatic with your speech, pauses.
The cultural exchange that happened was amazing. Coming here, it's like my brain just transported me a ride around the earth.
Welcome to the final of the English Speaking Union International Public Speaking Competition 2016.
Broadly speaking, we're looking at quality of delivery, pacing, how well they connect with their audience, how natural they are as a speaker in the room.
It's a question really of coming across with your heart and with your arguments.
Everybody did something different and everybody did it great. The delivery, the content, it was just amazing.
Today, I shall speak to you all on the power of humanity.
My mother could have very easily given me up. Instead, she chose to see me not as her broken rule, but as her one redemption.
See, that's the thing about us. We choose the easy way, not the right way.
Honor your word and practice the good things to grab that integrity.
That's it! This is the power within us. The power of choice.
The outcome of those things can bring a lot of integrity to entire populations.
What a wonderful afternoon it has been. What an amazing system it is to bring you all together, from Zimbabwe to Mongolia, from Sweden to Australia and everything in between. It is truly international. We have the winner of 2016 International Public Speaking Competition, who is Vivienne Garcia.
It's amazing. I honestly am very happy. I'm glad to go home and show people that Mexicans, we can do important things.
Genuinely, it sounds so cliche to say it, but what I got for winning is nothing compared to what I got for competing. Just all the friends that I will have for the rest of my life and all the love that I got from those people.
It's such a well-organized competition. It was so amazing to be here. I think that this is a must for every single public speaker.
I'm really excited to go home with an actual award to show what I did here. And when I go back to Ghana, I would expose the opportunity to young people.
What we have here are extraordinarily talented and sophisticated young people, all of whom I suspect are going to make their mark in the world.
It's a very good platform for their future to spread their wings and fly to anywhere they want.
Okay, and we are back. We are super nervous, anxious, excited all together. We're going to decide on 2 winners and a second runner-up and a first runner-up. And we're going to be doing this now in Portuguese, announcing the winners and the runner-ups, okay? Então, essa foi a nossa competição na fase final. Depois dessa, nós temos a final nacional. E deste momento de hoje, nós teremos 2 vencedores, que não tem ordem. São os 2 vencedores que vão diretamente para a nossa final nacional. E nós temos que ter para cada vencedor um runner-up, que é em caso de o vencedor não puder comparecer no evento nacional remoto, a gente possa ter um runner-up neste momento. Então, eu convido aqui um dos nossos jurados de hoje, o Lucas, para anunciar quem foi o segundo runner-up. Lucas.
Gente, primeiramente, parabéns pelo trabalho de vocês. Estamos muito orgulhosos, muito bem surpresos. E que rufem os tambores. The second runner-up is Julia Campos.
Okay, Julia, you can open your camera. Julia, parabéns, você é uma das runner-ups, a segunda runner-up, e você já ganha o seu voucher aí de um vale voucher, um presente de R$100, que depois a nossa produção do ESU vai te contatar. Parabéns, Julia, pelo seu discurso e pelo resultado. E nós temos também agora a Lenora nos contando quem é a primeira runner-up, first runner-up. Lenora.
Obrigada, Marcelo. Bom, em primeiro lugar, também parabéns a cada um de vocês pelos discursos incríveis, pela coragem e pela iniciativa de cada um. E é com enorme alegria que eu queria anunciar o primeiro runner-up, que foi o Henrique Miyashiro. Parabéns. Congrats, Henrique.
Henrique está lá. Parabéns, Henrique. Cadê você? Aí. Parabéns, você está o nosso primeiro, né? Nosso first runner-up. E também, logo depois, a nossa produção do ESU vai entrar em contato com você para te falar desse voucher no valor de R$100. Parabéns, Henrique. Now we have Sandra Stevens here, and ela vai anunciar os 2 vencedores, que não tem ordem, tá? Então, são os 2 que vão representar a cultura inglesa nessa final nacional. Sandra, estamos mega ansiosos. Contem quem são os 2 aí vencedores.
Nossa, muita emoção esse momento. Bom, então não se esqueça que não é em ordem alfabética, né? São os dois são vencedores. Um é a Lara Miguel e a outra é a Sofia Aburjaila. Então, Lara e a Sofia.
Lara e Sofia, vocês são as escolhidas pelos jurados, né? As vencedoras para representar na final nacional. Parabéns. Então, vocês duas acabam também de ganhar esse voucher de R$100, no valor de R$100, mais as 2 horas de coaching para que possam ir ainda mais preparadas para essa final nacional. A produção vai falar com vocês depois para negociar datas, os horários dessa final nacional. Super parabéns. E aqui, novamente, em nome da Cultura Inglesa, da organização do ESU, quero agradecer a cada aluno candidato pela participação, pelo tempo, estar aqui com a gente, né, online até essa hora. Mega parabéns a todos vocês. Eu sou professor, a gente fica mega orgulhoso. Eu fico tão tenso quanto vocês, acreditem, porque a gente quer que todo mundo se dê bem e que todo mundo leve esse prêmio. Muito obrigado aos jurados que aqui também tiveram, a Fernanda, que nos ajudou como timekeeper, a Marcela, que nos ajudou na moderação das perguntas, a todo mundo. Nós atingimos mais de 70 pessoas ao vivo assistindo vocês no YouTube, então estavam com uma plateia aí de pessoas comemorando, celebrando, e obviamente ao Newton, que quase ninguém viu, mas foi o cara que fez a mágica aí do streaming no YouTube. Obrigado a todos e até a final nacional. Tchau, tchau.